Hey guys, Holistic Hilda here. I bring you experts, experiences, and epic adventures to boost your health. I'm a certified integrative nutrition health coach, a certified fitness professional, and the host and producer of the Wise Traditions podcast. Today I bring you Dr. Leland Stillman. When I was just starting to understand this quantum health space and what it means to get sunlight and the power of the sun to boost our health, improve our metabolism, and rev up our mitochondria, I went to Playa del Carmen, Mexico, and I met Leland among many other amazing health experts and practitioners in this space. Anyway, Leland was great because he could take this heady scientific knowledge about biohacking and quantum health and bring it down to earth. So check out what he has to say about the importance of sunlight and other such for good health. So we are live in Playa del Carmen. I'm here with Dr. Leland Stillman, a quantum physician. And I wanted to ask you, Leland, what was that aha moment where you realized that something more needed to take place? And as a matter of fact, we need to take light into the equation of our wellness.
So it was when a patient and friend of mine really came to me with Jack Kruse's work, Dr. Jack Kruse's work. And he said that he thought this was kind of the missing piece to the functional medicine, alternative medicine paradigm. And I had been looking into functional medicine and alternative medicine for a long time, and a lot of what they advocated for didn't make sense to me. And I also saw more and more stories coming out of that field or area of interest where people weren't getting the improvements they wanted to get. And the common thread I started to see in these stories, and in particular the demographics of people who were not getting better with functional medicine, they happened to be young, tech-addicted people who were living a very artificially lit life and often completely disconnected from really their native electromagnetic environment. And it was very compelling to me, and I experiment with all this stuff. I've tried many different diets over the years, tried plenty of different supplements to see what they could do for me. And I basically jumped in with both feet and started to reinvent my lifestyle around light, water, and magnetism, which are the three components, we call it the three-legged stool, basically, of quantum medicine. My experience was very powerful, and since then I've heard countless stories and had experiences with friends, family members, patients who've had great success integrating this on top of or instead of a functional medicine paradigm.
So let's go with that powerful bit. Like, how was it powerful for you to integrate this light, water, and magnetism into your wellness habits?
So the biggest thing would be, I work as a traveling physician at the moment, and so I'm very mobile, and I decided I wasn't happy living where I was in Denver, Colorado, and I decided I wanted to relocate. And I actually moved in part because I wanted to be able to really live a lifestyle where I got a lot of sun and I was able to be outside a lot of the time. So I moved to Northwest Florida and saw a major shift in how I slept, how much I ate, what I craved. The biggest thing for me has honestly been the sleep. And I ended up buying a Magnetico sleep pad that Dr. Jack Kruse recommends. And what I tell people now that I block blue light with blue blockers after sundown, and I sleep on a Magnetico, I just tell them they don't know or understand how deeply they can sleep. My sleep got trashed during my residency training as an internist because I was working 24-hour shifts, or I was working a week of nights, and you're really working 12 hours a day at minimum inside under artificial light. Especially I was in Maine where you get very little sun. And so my sleep really suffered, and I needed to get it back on track. And the biggest thing for my sleep now, I'm convinced of, is the light. And sleep is the number one thing we've seen, I would say, across epidemiological and clinical studies, where if your sleep is trashed, you're not regenerating at night. If you're not regenerating at night, you're aging rapidly, you're accumulating diseases. We see that association much more robustly than we do with diets or supplements or levels of nutrients or vitamins in your blood. And that just brought it home for me. I felt so much better sleeping on a Magnetico and sleeping in a place with a low population density and controlling my light environment and blocking blue light. That was the really the proof of the pudding for me. And I ended up, my mom's a really good sport, and she ended up going along with a lot of this stuff. And she ended up trying it too. And I'll never forget her calling me up and telling me that she had just gotten the best night's sleep of her, that she could remember. And she's in her 70s, and I deal with sleep issues in 70-year-olds all the time, and usually you just got to, your options are, pharmacologically speaking, give them a drug with a lot of nasty side effects, or like an herb, like valerian root or something, and you very rarely get a real significant improvement in their sleep. You might get better or easier sleep onset, but what you're really looking for is restorative, regenerative sleep that people are rested after. And a big piece of that for me too is, I work as a hospitalist, and I used to crash at about 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I needed another cup of coffee. Now, I don't have those problems with daytime sleepiness. I just power through the whole day. And it's all about getting restorative, regenerative sleep, and that's really all about your electromagnetic environment, the light you're living your life under, and that's all about blocking blue light and having blue filters on your devices.
This is so fascinating because I think so many of us in this health and wellness space think it's all about the food we eat. Like, we got to go organic, and we're trying to make all these changes, and we have no idea the impact of the lights over our heads. And most of the time, we're working or living inside. That's so different than how our ancestors lived.
Absolutely, and it's a big challenge for people today to integrate these kinds of habits into their lifestyle. But the simplest part is to really pay attention to how you spend your mornings, because this is when your body is really setting its circadian clocks. And you for the most part, people have control over that. So long as you're going into work after the sun rises, you can spend that critical time outside, getting natural sunlight, setting your circadian rhythms, and that really sets yourself up for a healthy sleep pattern in the evening. And then, get home from work, wherever you are, when the sun goes down, power down as many lights as possible, turn on your blue light filters on your devices, get out your blue blockers. It's, for a lot of people, it seems like a radical shift, but once you get used to it, it just becomes another part of daily life, and you end up feeling so much better. Like, if I go out at night now and I forgot my blue blockers, I'm actually kind of miserable because I just don't feel well, or I don't feel as well as I know I would with them.
And Leland, do you think we've just gotten comfortable with not feeling well? Is that part of why we're not awake as a population to what we need to do?
Yeah, I think that's absolutely the case. People don't vary their environment, and so they don't understand what it means, what in their environment is affecting them. They become very much habituated to and used to the same, whatever level of function they're used to. And they don't think to change these things because they don't see the patterns and the connections between how light really drives critical pieces of their physiology and their biology. And the most common diseases that I'm seeing that are disabling people are all, and killing people, of course, are all linked to the neuroendocrine system. And when you just start to read about how light tunes this system up and controls it, you begin to, I prescribe a lot of hormones to people, like thyroid hormone in particular, and there's of course a whole new suite of hormone replacement therapies that are becoming more and more in vogue, and they're opening clinics all over the country. Institute for Functional Medicine, many of their people are offering this. We're basically playing with fire with these hormones when the sun is supposed to be modulating their levels for your environment. And that's the biggest thing that I try to instill in my patients, is a respect for how their biology is supposed to be run based on where they are and what the sun does there at different times of year. And that includes getting cold and doing what we call cold thermogenesis, or cold exposure in the winter, because that's a natural part of your environment if you're a mammal, to be cold when there's a low solar yield and the sun is gone in winter.
This is so fascinating, and I'm glad you've given us specific tips for how to apply some of these concepts, like getting that morning sun, and you talked about like getting blue blockers, right, and limiting the devices we have on at night. So this is great, and I know there's more to explore, but is there anything else that you would say has really been helpful to you personally or to your patients that you might recommend as we start to wrap up?
Sure. So the biggest thing that I think people need to focus on, especially coming into the new year, the kind of resolutions I would suggest to people have to do with limiting your technology use and coming up with some habits or some hard and fast rules about how you use it. Because I've talked about light, but the more I look at how wireless devices change the way we interact, the more concerned I am that they're just completely disconnecting people from the physical interactions that they have, the normal in-person interactions. And what people don't get is that their brain is wired into a social routine that, if you look at, say, indigenous or people living in a low tech life, they're constantly making physical contact with other people. Their interactions are face to face, and there are very real neurological effects of these interactions. You're not getting the same effects with digital media. And the biggest thing I see young people doing is they're competing constantly for upvotes or likes or comments or shares or whatever. These are things that I think are hacking into the dopaminergic system in the brain and the reward response pathway that we see, leading to things like drug addiction and addictive behaviors, and that those are supposed to be balanced in life by basically in-person interactions that activate oxytocin release from the posterior pituitary gland and then potentiate serotonin activity in the limbic system. I can't really tell you what happens when we take people out of their natural environment where they're having face-to-face in-person interactions, but you're seeing in our society this massive rise in neuropsychiatric disease that no one seems to have a real answer for, and waiting for very large randomized placebo-controlled trials to basically change your behavior is, I think, the wrong move. And so my resolutions for 2019 really include limiting my cell phone use as much as possible and trying to spend more and more time with people in person.
Well, that sounds powerful, and I'm glad we're kind of doing it right now on the cusp of 2019. So thank you for your time. This is Dr. Leland Stillman, and he has his YouTube channel as well, so you guys can check it out. Thanks. Thanks for watching, you guys. Subscribe so you don't miss a thing. Comment below and let me know what you thought of this post and who you'd like to see next time. And click on the notification bell so that you can be alerted every time I put up a new video. Thanks again, and I'll talk to you soon.